hybrid. Yeah. The hybrid. Yeah. The hybrid. Yeah. The hybrid.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to The Hybrid, the podcast where two former state cannabis regulators try to make sense of the cannabis industry while also pretending we know something about pop culture. Since it's Thanksgiving week, we'd figured this was the perfect time for a short episode where we slow it down, take stock of the year, and appreciate the chaos we survived. Thanksgiving is a natural fit for cannabis regulators. If you're hosting, it takes lots of preparation, long hours, figuring out logistics, and there's always at least one family member who's convinced they can host better than you can. So today, we're doing a Thanksgiving special, nothing too heavy, no 2-hour debates, no Shawn pontificating upon whatever it may be. Just a quick, fun episode before everyone checks out for the long weekend. We're going to kick things off today with Turkey Talk, where Shawn and I share things that regulators should be thankful for this year. Some sincere, some not so much. Then we're going to run with the Thanksgiving side dish draft. Very important stuff, which is really just an excuse for me to attack Shawn on all of his flaws through his food preferences. After that, we'll fire through a round of stuffing or nothing, a rapid fire segment where the goal is to choose between two terrible scenarios without thinking too hard. And then we'll close it out with some personal and professional things that we're thankful for, just enough to remind everybody, even in this wild ride of cannabis, there are people and moments worth appreciating. So load up your plates, settle in, and let's get started. Jumping into our very first segment here, Shawn, Turkey Talk.
Yeah.
Since it's Thanksgiving week, we wanted to start with something light. Every year, there's at least a few moments that make regulators take a breath and think, well, at least that worked. So the idea here is, Shawn, I pulled together a quick list of things, and hopefully you can come up with some thoughts here that regulators could be reasonably thankful for. I have some real experiences, some maybe not such real experiences, but do you want to let's kick us off just with the general topic of what are things maybe that you experienced or they may be experienced at any given moment that they could be thankful for?
Well, Erik, always great to see you. And so,
Yes.
Of course, happy Thanksgiving week and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, despite that intro. Yeah, I think, look, regulators they have a lot on their plates, is a nice pun intended. And I think they do have plenty to be thankful for. I think one of them, to be sort of start this at a very high level, is there is still a significantly high level of public support for cannabis legalization. And I think when you have that wind at your sails, I think there's a lot of opportunity there to create, develop, and implement some really thoughtful policies that advance that agenda, that mission. But I think having the public support behind you, and again, it's not like it's significant, but it's not unanimous. And so as much as it is something to be thankful for, there's plenty of our colleagues in state government and federal government that are implementing policies that people don't care for. And there's a lot of pressure with that. Here, the pressure is to get it right, get it as close to right. But having that public support, I think, is definitely a good starting point of we're doing public service. At the end of the day, we're implementing public service and the people's will most often, especially with those that came through ballot questions. But it was always reassuring to know as a regulator that I was doing something on behalf of the public and that they wanted me to do. So I guess that's as philosophical as I can make it, but starting as let's start high level.
No, I think that's a good one and a fairly serious one right off the get go.
It's turkey talk. I take my turkey seriously.
No, it is an important one, and I think it's a fine line to walk too with what you're pointing out, because a lot of the times when we're talking about how kind of regulators move in this space and the different stakeholder groups and who we're talking to, I think generally speaking, absolutely, like the vast majority of Americans in any given state support legalization, and that is comforting. But there's that fine line to walk to understand that there is always going to be a portion that oppose it.
Hmm.
And their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions around it are also real. So kind of juggling that, but understanding, I understand where you're coming from, saying like in everything that we're doing, trying to do this the most responsible, the safest, the most competitive way possible. There is the large majorities of, what do you call it?
Bay
Massachusettsites.
staters. We have Bay staters.
The vast majority of Bay staters are supporting the efforts that we're taking here. So I think that is a good one that regulators can be thankful for.
What have you got?
That's a good one right off the bat.
Yeah, let's now we start the toilet bowl downward spiral. Erik, what's yours?
No,
Things get worse from here.
No, well, yeah, I got one really good one on here that you're gonna appreciate. I'm sure you'll have lots of comments on it, but I think one, and this is fairly serious too. If you're a regulator, and this is my lived experience as well, always being thankful for getting your program launched without significant delays that are tied to a lawsuit.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
Yeah. That's, hey, knock on wood. We were able to roll a program out here in the Bay State. We have been sued. We were sued. We were threatened with suit plenty of times. I like to knock on wood again that I was undefeated in lawsuits. We were always able to defend our program.
amen.
There were some maybe that didn't come to fruition or didn't sort of make their way through the process. But yeah, I think this is a litigious industry, no doubt. And building rules with that looming threat is something that we had to kind of come to terms with, which is you're inevitably going to get sued. It's not personal, but obviously you're dealing with property interest. You're dealing with a lot of financial stakes and a lot of risk and that sort of thing. But you're also dealing with very novel policy and some that have a lot of like options A through somewhere else on the alphabet. And you have to choose one, meaning you're inevitably going to choose one that someone didn't prefer and they might sue to get their way. And we've seen plenty of our peers across the country deal with that and have to navigate that. And you've obviously helped a lot of jurisdictions navigate that threat, but that reality too.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I think I get brought in along with my colleagues at Cannabis Public Policy Consulting is to help navigate that process. And Mackenzie Slade, who's the CEO of Cannabis Public Policy Consulting, and we've had her on the program before. We should have her back soon. She I think she puts it perfectly when she says, look, you're going to get sued.
That's
it's
right.
inevitable.
Yep.
But we want to make sure that when we get sued, we win. We get sued in the right way and we're able to defend it and we're able to move forward with the implementation. And I think the number of states we've helped navigate that, we have a proven track record of success on helping have, I'll say, the smoothest implementation possible. But I mean, you've pointed out, and I pointed out too, like it's inevitable. This is all brand new. There are winners and losers in a lot of the decisions that are made. And it's proven to be a fairly litigious space.
Yeah, it's like you're the smoothest like off-road experience you could possibly get.
Exactly.
Like it's gonna suck. There's gonna be bumps. It's not gonna be comfortable, but you'll get there. And I think what you're proving, what you, Mackenzie, and what you've done across the country is really prove that there is a path to be drawn there. Again, it's not your highway that's going to be a nice smooth ride. There's going to be some bumps along the way. But one thing I've noticed too is in that litigious environment and this is a bit of it's not quite a hot take, but it's more of a take, which is I'll die on that hill too. Sue me. This is the right thing to do. And if a court tells me I can't do it, okay, I'm going to die on that hill though, that one, I have the discretion as the regulator to do it. And I'm thinking about things like exclusivity or sort of, license categories, residency requirements. And these are all things that are sort of baked into a lot of policies around the country. Like the legislature bakes these priorities in, and other folks from either outside that community or outside that jurisdiction or just with a different approach will sue to get there. But I always kind of come back to I'm doing my job as the regulator to implement this statute, and I'm going to die on this hill. If I get sued and lose, okay. And I'm okay with that. But it also, I think, makes you sort of a segue into like being a good steward of public resources too. Lawsuits take time and they cost money.
Yeah, and just making sure all of the decisions that you've made, and it seems like the vast majority of decisions regularly made, there is that opportunity for somebody to challenge it. Just making sure that you're thoughtful in how you're making that decision. You're documenting, you're documenting everything. And yeah, I agree with you that you're confident in that decision and you're gonna stand by it too. So couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and also, I mean, a lot of this stuff is ripe for negotiation. So, like, settlements are not caving. It's not, you might have to make a concession here or there, but I think part of making good public policy is the art of negotiating and the art of getting to closure on something, not abandoning your philosophies or your principles necessarily, but getting to a pathway that is maybe a bit smoother than your off-road vehicle.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point to make. Like, there is room for negotiations here as somebody that
Always.
settled a lawsuit that kept our timelines in place, and we were still able to launch on our timelines. I would agree that
Your timeline.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Not the public's expectation, right? Yeah.
No, on our timelines,
Got it.
exactly. But
Yeah.
yeah, that I would agree that that's not a loss. At the end of the day, you have the back and forth in a settlement, you land where the parties are comfortable and you're able to keep forward positive momentum. So
And at the end of the day, like, as a regulator, you and I were responsible for upholding public health, safety, welfare. Like, that's at the end of the day, that's the job, that's the mission. And these people come in with business interests that I'm not ignoring, or I'm sure you weren't either. But that collision is the things I won't come off of in a negotiation are, am I preserving or promoting public health, safety, and welfare? And if what you're asking me to do sacrifices or impacts that in an adverse way, then I just won't do it, and then sue me, right? Like, again, history will be kind to me that I died on that hill. And if a court tells me I have to do it, or if we can negotiate something that's reasonable for both sides, but I'm not moving off of that philosophy or that position of, am I a steward of public health, safety, welfare? So those are the guiding, that's sort of the North Star, and something less than that I can live with and that doesn't violate sort of that statutory and moral obligation that I had, then let's deal by all means. But the leverage point that I have is that I have a job to do and I have a responsibility and an obligation. And if it doesn't fit with your business interests squarely, I mean, okay, then sue me.
it is what it is.
Yeah. Um, so I mentioned the budget piece. I think as a regulator, one of the things that I enjoyed, I guess, to a degree, obviously it was never enough, but I did have the benefit of having financial support from our legislature in a, what I would argue was a sufficient way to allow me to grow organically, to allow me to grow alongside this industry. It was always a chase. We were never really at an equilibrium of, we were always issuing more licenses faster than we could hire the staff to inspect them and to sort of manage their compliance. We were always chasing that number. And our problem, it wasn't so much a problem, but our challenge was we didn't have a statewide cap on licenses. We didn't impose a statewide cap on licenses. So that growth had the risk of being exponential year over year over year. But I was always, I always tried to be as proactive as possible with our legislature to say, this is where I see this going. This is what I need. And to their credit, my legislature gave us those resources and allowed us to grow. I also had the benefit of the year, I would say our first year, especially, of saying, I cannot open stores on time if you don't give me this money.
Yeah.
Once we opened stores like that, I kind of cried wolf enough that it was like, all right, well, you did open stores on time. You got your money. Like, now go away. But there was always growth. There was always a need to keep up. I feel like once I left, which is about 5 or so years in, we kind of hit that equilibrium point of like a plateau where the answer was, all right, like enough's enough. You are now a stable structure of state government. You don't need $10 more million. You've built it, now maintain it, basically. And I think that's where some of our colleagues across the country probably hit that same challenge. But back to the turkey talk philosophy here, the sort of the content, I think having sufficient resources in a legislature that appreciates those needs was something that we benefited from, certainly in Massachusetts. But I've also tried to advocate for others of get ahead of that, because it's going to be your growing challenges. What does your revenue picture look like?
There's one caveat there, though. There's never enough resources,
Totally.
whether it's financially or like bodies
Like
or
just
time.
like, how do you prioritize, right? Like, I'm sure you experienced it where you're rolling out this industry and preparing to launch it, but you're also building your agency at the same time and hiring too. Like, you're looking for you're building a team. I used to joke that, like, I'm building a basketball team. Not everybody can shoot because someone's got to rebound. Not everybody can shoot because someone's got to pass it. And as you're building that team, you're hiring your lawyer the same time you're hiring your licensing staff, the same time you're hiring your investigators or inspectors. And what you're really not saying or thinking through much is, are these guys going to get along? Like, are they going to be oil and water, or are they going to be a team and sort of row in that same direction? And again, I'm using a lot of sports analogies, but I think the point is hopefully clear, which is you're building your staff, but then they've got to work together. They've got to gel, and they've got to do it under these tight deadlines and a lot of pressure, public scrutiny, etc. It's a real pressure cooker. So,
Yeah. And I think it probably speaks to the job that you did with your legislature and the way that you ran the agency, that the legislature was willing to give you the budget needed in order to do what you needed to do. And very early on, I had that same type of support. And I think it speaks to kind of the transparency, the way that we did it. We were always open with the legislature, giving presentations, giving updates, being transparent in the steps that we were taking in order to get the program up and running, what we were going to use that money for, what were we going to use that head count and those FTEs for. And I had the same experience. And certainly there is a plateau. There comes a point where, all right, you're not going to get everything that you ask for, which is totally fine. Like, they're managing their resources for the entire state. You're just a very small piece of that.
yeah.
But there are also ways to get things that you need and that you're looking for when the purse or the pocketbook closes. My favorite story was, this was before we even launched the adult use market, but there was a directive in state law that said, once you're up and running, you need to implement track and trace inventory tracking on the state's medical program. And we started doing that. And
I've heard about this.
Yeah. And the industry and many stakeholders had an absolute meltdown. There's no way that they could do it. Although there was a different cannabis program that was up and running and doing really well with it. And the legislature decided to take that, basically that regulation away out of state law, but still expected the same regulatory oversight and the same protections of the public's health and safety and program integrity, which, I mean, that's like,
you can't do that.
No, that doesn't, the math doesn't math there. So a way around that, and a way for us to grab a bunch of resources, is just throw in the fiscal note. Fine. Then we need 15 more investigators. And guess what? We got 15 more investigators.
Don't waste a crisis, right?
Yeah. Don't waste a crisis. So yeah, just take advantage of every opportunity to bring in resources, even if it's in a shitty legislative deal.
We had this expectation externally that all of these license fees and tax revenue and every dime or dollar collected, whether it be at the municipal level or the state level, went into this marijuana regulation fund. And because it was called this marijuana regulation fund, there was this public expectation that it's a trust fund. You are just living like high off of this trust fund. In reality, it was essentially an accounting fund that I then had to go and get legislative appropriation out of for my agency. So if we're generating $150, $200 million in tax revenue into this fund, I'm still begging for $20 million, $25 million, whatever the number was. And that was always a challenge of balancing the public's expectation or the public's impression of this fund, which is why you have access to hundreds of millions of dollars. Why aren't you just throwing it at people? Like, why can't you just go hire 50 people? One, if I hired 50 people in one day, something tells me in that bunch is going to be a bad hire, or someone that doesn't meet the quality of our expectations, someone that doesn't gel with the team, or even a handful of people that don't meet those expectations. You can't do that. You also bear in mind, you got to do background checks on people. They're coming into state government. They're government employees. They come with, obviously, you should scrutinize those folks.
The amount of interviews you would need to get through in order to pick 50 people. If
I went back through my calendar, I would say my first month and a half, 2 months was probably nothing but interviews. And it was serious roles, right? Like you're talking general counsel, you're talking IT, the chief of IT, you're talking about CFO, like all of these really critical organizational hires. And you're trying to suss out, like, do you understand what you're getting into? This is not a comfy, cozy state job. You have to hustle. Like you might be the CFO of the Cannabis Control Commission, but you're also doing all of the invoicing. You're doing all of the accounts receivable and payable. You're doing all of the internal controls. You're doing like you got to roll your sleeves up. You don't have a team. You got to build your team. But back to the money piece, I would just sort of point out this expectation that we were not sitting, on this pile of cash. We had to go and ask for it. And I also had some years where I didn't spend it all. They gave me the money and I just couldn't spend it fast enough as far as the hiring was concerned. But to your point on transparency, I would be very honest with them about, I didn't spend this $2 million because I didn't get to that cadence of what that money was committed for. And what I was able to work through with the legislature was it all reverts at the end of the year. There's sort of those of you that haven't lived inside bureaucracy, we don't just have a bank account that cycles over. At the end of the year, it sort of gets swept into what is the general fund, but I could then get it appropriated back to us. So the point was essentially, let me keep a savings account here because that $2 million was committed for something. And I had a staff that was thinking, well, yeah, it should be for raises, right? Like we should all reap the benefit of saving all that money.
Hell yeah.
And my frustration was like, no, we didn't spend that money because you didn't get around to implementing your program and you didn't get around to, spending on that contract that we had on that vendor and so the budget aspect of that was something obviously I had an expectation for. I had an impression of what I'd be getting into, but talk about like trial by fire. That was the budgeting piece, the organizational, the sort of administrative side of the house was something that we just had to grow. It had to happen, and it was going to be some pain points. But I think again, 5 to 6 years in, you've hit a steady state where now you're functioning. So, who's next on Turkey Talk? Is it me or you?
I got the turkey talk, and I think your conversation or the points that you made about bringing in that early staff is a nice segue for things to be thankful for. I handled it much the same way that you did. I mean, I think some of those early decisions of who you brought in were some of the most important, and I think even by the time that I left, when we were an agency well over 40 people, I had interviewed probably for 90% of those positions.
Mm-hmm.
Even the lower level, I don't want to call them lower level because they're still important jobs, but some of the support, I knew as far as like from a culture aspect, a teamwork aspect, a fit aspect, it was
That's right.
important or I felt confident in my ability to do that. I mean, they weren't all hits, of course. But I had such a high level of importance on that piece that I was still interviewing licensing admin positions. But so to go back to Turkey Talk, what we're actually, what we're trying to discuss here are things that we were thankful for in our time, but certainly cannabis regulators today could be thankful for. And mine was a supportive administration and also the team that I had brought in to help me do that. And I realized that's not the case in every state, right? Certainly when we were launching the program here in Maine back in whatever it was, 2019 now, our governor at the time, cannabis certainly wasn't her favorite topic. I'm sure she wasn't wild to be the one that was responsible for implementing this new program. But to her credit and her chief of staff's credit, were always supportive of what I was doing. And again, that I had known them for a while from my work in the legislature and Maine politics and party politics. But I think I built that level of trust pretty quickly in the way that we got the rules out, the way that I kept them updated, the way that we conducted the office and were being thoughtful about everything we did. So having that support from the administration, from the governor, from the governor's office and her staff it just makes life that much easier and comforting, knowing if you make difficult decisions, which regulators make on a daily or weekly basis, that they have the support of, well, I guess in some cases their commission or their board, but in my case, certainly the administration. And then just to have a staff that you're in lockstep with, that you understand they have your back, you have their back, and you just work as one cohesive unit. Granted, you and I were a little bit different than today, right? Like, not a lot of cannabis regulators coming in get to build their staff from scratch, much
right.
the way that we did. So we basically got to be incredibly thoughtful and handpick those individuals and making sure they're going to be the right fit. And they had that understanding. And really, I think there's something to be said about the group that actually creates something and implements it has a much different dynamic than those that just kind of administer it. Not to diminish that, administering a cannabis program is very difficult.
Yeah.
But to go the heads down, the long hours, the whiteboarding, with the actual creation and implementation, there is kind of a bonding aspect to it. And I wouldn't be anywhere without the staff that I had brought in those first few early years. Like, we get a lot of credit for doing it as the agency leader, as the executive directors, whatever it may be. But any opportunity that I got, I would kind of say, yeah, I'm just one guy. Like, if you want to be thanking somebody, thank this dedicated group of
Yeah.
public servants here. They were everything to me. Like,
And
they kept me going for a long time when you know that you hit a point where you're just like, I can't do this anymore.
not just one point. There were
Yeah.
many points throughout our tenures. But I first off, I just want to sort of steal your turkey talk and add my perspective on it, because I would be remiss if like you, I didn't acknowledge that I was and remain the beneficiary of their work and sort of the skill and the commitment, the dedication that the team, especially in Massachusetts, put forth to launch a completely fully regulated program from day one. Like, there was not a thing that we had to go back and revisit by necessity. There was some that we revisited by choice, as far as like, this policy, let's revisit it, let's tweak it, let's improve it, let's perfect it. But yeah, I think, and that's where for me, like, those are people, to your point, that are in my network for my life. Like, they are my team and I am theirs. And I'm so grateful and thankful to have been able to work with them, to be able to learn from them, because each person brought their own expertise to their role and kind of had the opportunity, frankly, to put their sort of impression on it, their thumbprint on the agency, to the point where, as staff would move into new roles, and I was really grateful that throughout my time, I was able to promote folks internally and see them grow into their role. So, an investigator would become an investigations manager, or, so to see them mature and sort of also grow here, I think there was a mutual acknowledgement to that, of, this is a place I want my career to grow, and I have the chance to grow here, and I want to stay. It's almost like they're choosing you again based on their experience of having worked with you. That was always flattering to sort of get that. But then when folks would leave for other opportunities, I would always tell them, like, as long as you're leaving on your own volition and because you are choosing to pursue a different path, like, you're always part of our team, though. Like, when you reflect on the cannabis industry in Massachusetts 10 years from now, I hope you look at it with a source of pride or a sense of pride, to say, like, I built that. Like, my fingerprints are on that for whatever reason. And our team was, it almost, at times, as you sort of go back and analyze your program, and you think, like, would I have made a different decision? Would I have done something else? And there were definitely some hits and misses that's always going to be the case. But my commitment to them was pretty serious, as far as, like, I would catch arrows publicly all the time. And sometimes I would step in front of those arrows to catch them.
100%.
And I did that intentionally, to let our staff know that it's okay to make mistakes. The cover up is always worse than the crime, right? Like, that's usually the line, right? And I would just say, like, if we made a mistake, let's own it. Let's accept it. And there were times we roll out a procurement style that just, we're not getting the right responses that we want. But do we really want to re-procure something and, like, start the process from scratch? And, like, it's going to take time. It's embarrassing publicly. And my answer was always, like, if that's the right thing to do, that's the right thing to do. And I will go and sit in front of, and I had a 5-member commission. I will go sit in front of them and say, I made a mistake. And then the public is none the wiser as to who made the mistake. It was me. As far as you're concerned, it was me. And I feel like that developed internally a culture that was, if you screw something up, raise a hand. And it's almost like, you look at, like, a football team, and you're like, go gang tackle that person. Like, everybody runs to the ball. That was us. Like, everybody runs to the ball. And just, again, to keep the analogy going, play through the whistle. and make sure that we do the job. So, but I just, to reiterate your point and to emphasize it on my own perspective, to have a team like we did in Massachusetts, I can tell you with confidence that program does not roll out if not for the contributions of every single person that we hired, and still to this day. Like it's them that do the work. It's not the commissioners, it's not the governors, it's not you or I. It's the staff that's actually looking at applications and inspecting those facilities. So credit to them.
And before we move to your next turkey talk, you made a point that I want to reiterate or expand upon if there's any high-level decision-making cannabis regulators actually listening to this. Your point about internal promotions and promoting from within, I always love doing that, even if their experience didn't match the position that they wanted. And let me explain what I mean there. Like, if I had somebody that was in compliance,
unqualified.
I wouldn't even say unqualified, just didn't have the experience, but they wanted to try their hand. They wanted to move. We had this exactly. We had somebody in the data team that wanted to move over and do a higher level licensing job. And the argument was made, well, they don't have experience doing X, Y, and Z. And I would always laugh being like, I was a senior policy advisor in the speaker's office, and my governor and her staff trusted me to open up a regulatory agency where there was zero experience. But I think you've put in a reel before me saying I was a terrible regulator.
Well, but now I will.
Yeah. But I don't put as much stock in, they have the exact experience. I look more at the human, their professionalism, how they conduct themselves. Are they trustworthy? Do they have the best interest of the organization in the decisions that they make when no one's looking? That type of stuff. So don't be afraid to give people opportunities, because certainly I got one, and you did too.
1,000%. Yeah. So. As much as I might give you grief over it, I think that's right. And also there were some times where I had some tough conversations too of, this is not the role for you. And it's not because I can't afford to lose you in your other role. I think that's a really shitty excuse for a manager to be like, I need you to stay in your junior role because I depend on you so much. It's like, well, that's a me problem, not a you problem. But there were times where I thought, you're not there yet. But
yeah, absolutely.
Let's give them that feedback because they're owed it, but then let's also give them a plan to get there. Right? Like, so what can we do around professional development? What can we do around resources? Do they want to take whether it be a course, do they want to get more involved with a group like CANRA and actually sort of grow into the role? But I feel like there was something sort of protective about that approach of, I don't want to set you up for failure, and I want to make sure that you are prepared to succeed. But you could tell a lot about a person when they get that sort of feedback. And do they take that challenge? Do they step up? Or frankly, do they start looking for another job?
Exactly.
And I would never, I guess, criticize anyone for having a human reaction to a scenario. So it was never really my place. I just felt like for the sake of the agency and for the sake of like my responsibility to that employee, I had to put them in their best position to succeed. And if it was not in that role that they wanted that promotion, I feel like they had to hear that from me, or, someone else higher up. Maybe they had a mentor internally, for instance, but I feel like we owe them at least honesty. And so in your case, yeah, there are people, it's like, you know what, you want to try this out? Let's give it a shot. Or there were others where it's like, it's not for you. Do I have one more turkey talk?
You got one more turkey talk. I got one more turkey talk.
All
and
right.
then we get to the important stuff, the side dish draft.
My turkey talk then, again, back high level, but we started collecting data from the very, very beginning. And I'm so glad that we did. And I'm so glad that we did for two reasons. One is it created baseline data that we could then compare ourselves to year over year. And when we collected that data, we chose to pursue an open data strategy. And the value of that was it helped us acknowledge that we had no credibility and that we were earning it organically through the publication of information. But if we didn't start from scratch by doing that, if we didn't have baseline data to do that, it's sort of at some point, it just, there's always a sort of an asterisk next to it, which is we don't know what the past was because we weren't asking those questions. So pursuing an open data strategy was something that I'm grateful the legislature saw the utility of and gave us the resources to do it. I'm glad that the commission that I worked for saw the utility for it and gave me the space to build it. And I'm so grateful that people much smarter than me when it came to data came in to work for our agency to then build that infrastructure that is still to this day something that I hope Massachusetts is proud of. And I'm kind of leaning into this knowing that you and I share that commitment. And so I'm grateful too that I had partners in other states that could prove that concept alongside me. And then also we could compare our own data next to yours, next to other states. And so I would say my turkey talk would be data, just generally, and access to it, and then the publication of it. Did I steal yours?
No, you didn't. I have that conversation so often with our state clients and constantly going through the motions to make sure that we're doing that with the data, having the baseline data, being transparency, showing our homework.
Mhm.
You and I both did that very early on, and I'm thankful for that too, because it's funny too when you're starting out early on in this venture. You don't know what you don't know. For some reason, with you and I, like the data thing clicked. We understood the utility and the value of doing it from day one, and having it up and out there and very public. That wasn't the case for all things. Like I was late to the party with stakeholder engagement. I wish I had started that earlier on. I wish that was something that we had started from day one. But as far as the data, yes, incredibly, incredibly happy and thankful that we both did that.
Yeah. So you have one more?
I got one more.
Here goes nothing. Best for last.
I'm incredibly grateful, and other cannabis regulators should be incredibly grateful if they're able to launch their program and get through their tenure without major scandal.
Way to end on a happy note.
Without major, I should say drama. We see it so often, and it's not surprising considering the microscope that cannabis is under and all the important decisions that are made and all the different stakeholder groups that it touches. And I'm sure the Office of Cannabis Policy up in here in Maine caught some not favorable headlines in the state newspapers, but any of the major drama, I think it's tied into my personality, being good at avoiding drama, and it's like the plague. Just keep it away from me. How do you feel about drama, Shawn?
Thank you for sharing your perspective on this. That's great to hear from I'm glad you were able to do that.
All right, let's go to the next segment.
I would agree with you. I have thoughts on this for sure.
Sorry. I'm back.
Do we have an ad read or something we have to get to for this? No, I'll say this. I think, one, check your source, and then also keep in mind, maybe this is the way to differentiate it. Does the issue or the scandal or the drama have anything to do with cannabis? Because if it doesn't, then it's not a cannabis related issue. And therefore to focus and to opine on other things, or we are talking about cannabis programs here. And I think if to reflect on my tenure, I am really exceptionally proud of the program that was established. I am exceptionally proud of the work that I did personally, was able to contribute to that. And as far as the other stuff, again, check your source and just go from there. But I'm also really grateful to have a happy, healthy family this time of year. So you're
a good sport, Shawn Collins.
Yeah. Just, play through the whistle.
Just play through the whistle.
But I'm glad you had that. That's really great. Tell me more about that tenure of yours. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the most important segment that we're doing.
You did save the best for last. I'll give you that. That was
I could have added a lot more.
Should have read the agenda.
Yeah, you should have.
Would have dodged that bus that was headed my way.
All right, the most important segment of the Thanksgiving special, non-cannabis related, maybe in the analysis of some of the decisions and choices we make here, it can be tied into cannabis, although I don't know how we would do that. But Thanksgiving, easily my favorite Thanksgiving, excuse me, easily my favorite holiday because of the food. Sir, we're going to go with turkey as a given, but all of the side dishes I think are what make it so magical. So we're going to be doing a Thanksgiving dinner side dish draft where Shawn and I each are going to have 3 picks in a snake style rotating draft to draft the best side dishes. And then the listeners can decide who won. We'll recap and maybe there'll be an honorable mention. But since this is my lame Thanksgiving podcast segment idea, I'm going to let you have the first pick here, Shawn. So 3 picks, 6 picks total, the best Thanksgiving side dishes. So first overall.
This is big. Yeah. And also, like, keep in mind, first overall is getting the label of first overall pick. So there's a lot of pressure on that pick. There's also a strategy to this, which is to think about, there's some chess here, which is, do I take something off the board knowing that my true favorite is inevitably going to be available when it comes back around?
Ooh.
Right? Like there's some...
You might have the same... Now you can have... We might have... Because my favorite is in that same category. So that's what... get at my third pick.
Again, there's some psychology to this. There's some strategy to this. But I'm going to go the OG, and there is no Thanksgiving complete without it, which is stuffing. Out of the gate, I'm going stuffing. And everybody has their stuffing, right? Everybody has grandma's stuffing, mom's stuffing, uncle's stuff. Like someone's grandpa's stuffing. Someone's got a stuffing. My mother's stuffing is legendary down to the pot that she makes it in, which I'm pretty sure is in her will. Like someone's getting that pot. That pot, I think, used to be some form of coating on the bottom of the pot. I have no doubt it is now part of like my, I don't know, my DNA. Like that pot has eroded such that there are pieces of that pot probably in the stuffing. So I've got to go Mom Collins and her stuffing.
Yeah, I was going to knock you on that pick. Stuffing's a good pick. I didn't think it was going to be first overall. But it's a very safe pick. And with the Mama Collins secret stuffing recipe, my only question is, does she, so I also have the family member, it was my grandmother's stuffing, which is phenomenal. And we still make it today. It has sausage in it.
Yeah. So ours is a meat-based stuffing.
Just making sure.
Yeah. It is sausage. I can't tell the rest because we have such a large audience that they'll inevitably, steal it. But yeah, again, but it's got to be in that pot made by, and I think there's like a French connection to it, given the sort of the cultural aspect. But yeah, it is safe, sure, but I wasn't going to lose it either. So I had to take it because I figured, this is snake style, so you get 2 picks now?
Yeah, and this is, I'm glad that you went first with this, because now I can take who I think should have been 1-1 on the very first pick of the draft, but also take my personal favorite, make sure that I get it with the second pick. So the first pick is the mashed potatoes.
Okay.
And
mine was safe. Okay.
Yeah. And, and Mama Gundersen, makes them loaded up with like the sour cream and the cheese and the butter. And they take you to a different place. They're that good.
Yeah, it's called sleepy time.
Exactly. Nap time, football time.
Play to the whistle.
And then my personal favorite, grabbing it with my second pick, is green bean casserole. Now I may catch a little heat here. It's a very controversial side dish, so much so that we used to do a full casserole, but there weren't enough people anymore that ate it. I would eat like half the thing. Then now we do like a half casserole, and I still eat the majority of it. But
portion control. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I like it so much. When you make the turkey sandwich the next day, yeah, I put green bean casserole on the turkey sandwich.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm actually, so the heat is, maybe listeners, by all means, Mom, chime in, but, or, Erik's folks or anyone that is in our immediate family that actually listens to this bullshit. But including sponsors, by the way, if you're listening, please by all means chime in and send us a line. But green bean casserole is a staple of our Thanksgiving tradition. It's also one of those things that gets doled out now as like a who's making what. So growing up, obviously things were, my mother always hosted and my grandparents would come over. So growing up, is sort of the feast was prepared by our household. Now that we've all branched out and we sort of return to my mother's, we get assigned a side dish typically, or a series of side dishes or desserts. My mother still makes the stuffing though. That again, it's going to go with her. But I've had the green bean casserole assigned to me before. I've tried to make like the classed up version of it. You don't mess with it is my takeaway. This
is not a dish we need to class up.
No,
Just,
and I've
it
done
is what
like,
it is.
let me throw in some like little flavor here or there, and it's like, what am I doing? Like I made my own like sauce for it. It's like, no, just dump the can of cream of mushroom in there and go nuts. My niece recently found out that it's made with cream of mushroom, and I feel like she will now be less competition for the spoonful. So there might be more leftovers this year because of the ingredients. So that comes back to me, therefore. I'm going to go a little outside the box, but because like you, I get the luxury of 2 picks here. I'm going to go cranberry sauce because I don't want to lose it.
Well, this could either be a good pick or a terrible pick. Are you going homemade cranberry sauce? Or
I'm going
the can?
Ridges on the can.
Okay. Thank God.
Yep, Ridges on the can.
Yep.
And it's because I feel like every plate needs balance. And cranberry sauce is the balance on that plate. Otherwise, like everything is sleepy time. Everything is like you're carb loading, you are just gluttonous. And I feel like cranberry sauce comes in to just, it's a nice accent, but it brings a nice little bit of acidity to your plate. You talked about the sandwiches after. It is a great accompaniment to the gobbler sandwich. So I'm going to go cranberry sauce. The next one, though, I'm actually struggling here. I am going to go, and I'm going to catch a lot of shit for this.
I may catch shit for my next pick too, so don't worry about it.
I'm going to go turnip.
So that's a controversial dish in my family too, because we make it every year. I think only my mom eats it. And I remember my uncles used to yelling, you can't turn down the turn up, or got to turn down the turn up. I don't remember what it was, but yeah.
Turn down for what? Yeah.
We make it every year. I'm pretty sure my mom's the only one that eats it.
But that's why I'm choosing it. It deserves more respect on your plate. And I feel like
throw some respect on the turnip.
Who are we becoming as a society if we're not embracing the history? Also, when else do you have it? You can have mashed potatoes any time of the year. I would never go to the grocery store and be like, got a hankering for some turnip. I wouldn't even know where to find it at the grocery store. But once a year, I can count on, again, Mother Collins, Grandma Collins making a turnip. And there's a bit of a nostalgia to it too. My dad was a big fan of turnip, and so since his passing, it feels like it's almost like an homage to apparently a time that was far more cultural and traditional and well mannered. I don't know. It feels like if you're shitting on turnips, man, you're just get on. You're not welcome at my table. Sorry, I know it's a time of year where I shouldn't say that, but nope.
Shawn noted. Shawn, turnip sensitivity. Very sensitive about turnips. That's good. Okay. All right.
I had so many other. Turnips deserve a moment. So
I'm glad that you chose turnips. I think it brought some good dialogue, some good content here. But now looking at your list of
I have
three
a nasty
things,
like glare in my face too. So
in totality, I don't think it's going to be that hard for me to actually win this draft.
Stuffing would argue otherwise, but yeah.
All right. So the last pick that I'm going to make here, and I kicked around a couple different options in my brain, but I think some might argue some were like appetizers or like condiments. Gravy was up there, but I'm going to go with, this is controversial, and I'm sure half the listeners are like, hell yeah. And the other half are like, it doesn't even belong on the table. And I have an argument that supports my choice of macaroni and cheese, homemade macaroni and cheese. Not traditional, never grew up with it.
Yeah.
But years ago, when my family started hosting, we have, I don't know, 15, 16, 17, 18 people over.
Too many people. Yeah.
I know it's a lot of people. We took over the menu and we put mac and cheese on there because I know some families do it. And there was a lot of debate. There's a lot of conversation. Why are we doing this? Erik, you're crazy. But guess what? Every year, the mac and cheese is gone. Gone.
Okay. So you're letting people vote with their appetites in their mouths. Yeah.
Even the people in my family that questioned the decision to put mac and cheese on the menu for Thanksgiving, Shawn, you look at their plates, guess what they got? Mac and cheese.
Okay. All right. Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese.
It doesn't pair with turkey, though. Sorry. Doesn't
have to.
Yes, it does.
No.
You know what pairs with turkey?
You're proving my point. If you came over and you had dinner at the Gundersen household, I would look at your plate. You would have macaroni and cheese on there. You would see
Mama Gundersen would have nice, healthy portion of turnip, side of cranberry sauce, stuffing with some form of Teflon in it, probably.
Also, the cranberry sauce,
chips of metal.
At least it's not homemade, it's the can, and I'm a fan of the canned cranberry sauce, but I'm pretty sure for like the last 10 years, I will take a sliver of the cranberry sauce and put it on my plate, and I haven't touched it in 10 years. Although I keep taking some. I
called it an accessory. It's got good color to it, so it makes your plate, it gussies it up. But then if you just need, it's almost like the sorbet in between rounds. It might cleanse your palate. It serves a purpose, which is history, decoration. And if you're so inclined, it's that little bite to add, especially a balance of that with some turnip. Oh my God. But the mac and cheese, I want to agree with you. It is not on our menu. I will be honest. So therefore you are not at risk of losing it. I wouldn't be opposed to it being on a menu. I don't think I would have like the heated debate, but I wouldn't volunteer to put it on the menu either.
See, this is surprising. I mean, you just look like a mac and cheese guy. You look like, the first time I met you, I was like, this guy, he's a mac and cheese guy.
Feel offended. I think I'm offended. First off, don't ever judge a book by its cover. I have a sophisticated palate. Especially nowadays with a child, I feel like mac and cheese is a pretty good staple on will you eat this? So for those of you with children at Thanksgiving, mac and cheese is clear to be a...
Careful. My kids don't like it because my wife makes
it's the homemade.
She makes it with like Gouda cheese and like whatever other fancy cheese.
Yeah, my wife would fight you too. Yeah.
This is not like Velveeta. Although I do like Velveeta.
You look like a Velveeta guy. Yeah.
I do.
If I looked at you, I would say that guy.
that guy
gets down with some Velveeta. Yeah, I
think.
Wait.
Is this 2 podcasts in a row where we brought up Velveeta cheese?
Actually, it is. Yeah, brought to you by our new friends.
Sponsorship.
Yeah.
Somebody tag Velveeta cheese in this.
If I knew how on Instagram, believe me, I will now too. So I'm glad you brought up sort of the criteria too, because I was tempted to go like pumpkin pie and I thought it's not a side. That's a whole separate stage of Thanksgiving. So I didn't go appetizer either because I thought about that. Also, like our appetizers are kind of like, I feel like it's a rotating cast of options now. So
let's do a quick honorable mention, top dessert options or top dessert option. We'll just do one real quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna go pumpkin pie. I have to.
I'm going to go pecan pie.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's on our list. My sister-in-law, before they moved, rudely used to make it, and it was
I make it.
now nothing else will suffice, so we don't even bother like buying it. But I would definitely do a slice of pumpkin. Custard pie is also up there. That was my grandfather's thing, so you know that sort of has gone. Um, there's used to be this pumpkin kind of roll, like a
With the cream
loaf.
cheese
Yeah,
filling.
yep.
Yeah, I know what you're talking. Now, this is all starting to make sense. I mean, you have stuffing, cranberry sauce, and turnip. You got a light plate at Thanksgiving, and now it's apparent why you take that approach, because it sounds like you got like 6 different slices of pie right after dinner.
Not right after dinner. No,
Shawn Smith, pie guy. He's a pie guy.
Yeah, this is I don't know. I think this is honorable mention would definitely be, I think, pumpkin pie. Still, I like you on pecan pie. So I think what else is out there for like good
I mean, the fact
Thanksgiving
that
desserts?
neither one of us took apple pie is kind of insulting to apple pie and probably 95% of our listeners. But look, I just love me a good pecan
Again,
pie.
I feel like I can have apple pie anytime. It's like a fall thing. It's not a Thanksgiving thing to me. Pumpkin pie is exclusively a Thanksgiving thing for me. But apple pie, I feel like you go apple picking, you make an apple pie. You go apple picking, you make an apple sauce. Like that stuff to me is just generic fall staple, not so much Thanksgiving staple. Yeah, so that's sort of my take on it. My wife and I are also our anniversary is like a Thanksgiving window. In fact, now that I'm glad we're doing this podcast because I can remember that my anniversary is this week. But bread pudding was our dessert choice for our wedding, and we went. So now that's become kind of a thing, is like a bread pudding as well. So, and if
I'm not going to knock bread pudding.
nobody should, and nobody will. So, yeah, this was good. I think your list sucks. But hey, at least you tried.
A comment who won, just a recap. Shawn's Thanksgiving side dish choices were stuffing, cranberry sauce, the canned stuff, and turnip, with pumpkin pie as the dessert. I had mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, mac and cheese, and pecan pie. I think there's a clear winner, which is me, but we'll let...
Yeah, the healthcare system is what's going to win as far as, revenue earned off of Thanksgiving. And
Ozempic's knocking on my front door right now.
You know who's not going to win is CBN, which is what people traditionally use for sleep. You will not need that in the Gundersen household. You will have food coma or food baby. So what's next on our agenda?
I mean, we're already at an hour, so I think we just put a bow on it. This is supposed to be a light podcast, some fun listening, maybe while you're driving to your Thanksgiving dinner. I think we can put a bow on it.
Can I ask maybe I don't know, can I ask some indulgence on your behalf then? I would ask Erik, let me start by saying I'm incredibly grateful and thankful that you do this podcast with me. So when I reflect on what the spirit of this season is about, it is what you are thankful for. And I'm exceptionally grateful for you taking this journey with me. And I've had a lot of fun doing this with you. We've gotten to talk to a lot of interesting people, but I also think it's an opportunity for us to socialize and personalize who regulators are as human people, not just, sitting in an office and issuing decisions and opinions and things like that. And so as I reflect on this past year and in the spirit of this season, just want to acknowledge I'm grateful to have been on this journey with you, and also looking forward to what we do with it long term.
2026. Yeah, I was certainly going to leave space for what we're thankful for. I think it's an important part just in being a human being to reflect and take a moment and kind of look back and things that you appreciate, people experiences. So certainly thankful for your friendship, Shawn. This has been really fun getting to hang out and talk more, and certainly will be more in the future in 2026. Thankful for the podcast, thankful for the listeners and the subscribers.
Yeah.
When we started this, we were like, oh, no one's going to listen to this. And we've gotten some traction. We have people that actually listen and engage and comment, which is really cool for people that are just like, all right, I'll buy a microphone. I'll start recording and talking about cannabis policy and pop culture and Thanksgiving side dishes. So, for
this
two
might
guys,
lose us some subscribers, actually.
for two guys that are just kind of chatting with headsets and microphones, the fact that people are actually listening, that are making this possible. Thanks. We're thankful for you.
That's a great point, and certainly not to neglect our listeners. And then obviously those that we get to work with around this space, certainly our clients and our friends and our colleagues and peers across the country. I hope that people, especially in 2025, are able to enjoy their Thanksgivings and sit with their family, their friends, their loved ones, their neighbors, and just kind of pause for a minute. And we all have that uncle, we all have that aunt. You might be that uncle that folks maybe bite their tongue a little bit, but show them some grace as well. And again, this is all in the day. We are all family. We are all neighbors, and just enjoy your turnip and play through the whistle.
I was going to add something to that, but I feel like we just gotta go to black. That was so good.
Just
Shawn.
fade to black. Yeah. All right. Well,
just fade to black.
Subscribe, like, listen, do all those things. We will be back I'm sure we'll be back before Christmas to maybe do a little more fun podcasting around maybe what's on our Christmas list or other holiday season extravaganzas that we could probably come up with. We'll also bring some more guests and people that we want to learn from and talk to. And again, as always, like, subscribe, and we'll see y'all soon. Erik, any last?
Thankful for you, cannabis regulators. Good work.
There it is. All right, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
The hybrid. Yeah. The hybrid.